All right. Welcome everyone to today's stream. Seeing a lot of people pretty excited for this one today. But per usual, we're going to have myself, William McKenzie of Tezos Comments, and Oliver Simon of Block as your host. Our guests today are the mayor of the great city of Reno, Nevada, and Theodore Clapp. Welcome everyone. How are you all doing?
We're doing well. Thank you.
Great.
Good from Reno, Nevada. I love that. The great city of Reno, Nevada. Thank you, William. We're going to hire you for tourism. I love it.
Great.
And then
Right,
with me, I should introduce Teddy. He is going to be heading up my mayor's blockchain board on innovation here at the city of Reno. I'm super excited to have been connected with him, and he's a big fan of Tezos, and so I'm excited to have him because we've been talking about various projects and so many things and creating a Reno DAO, and so Teddy can talk a little bit about that later.
Very glad to have you two on the show. So before we kick things off, I'd like to announce that we're going to be having another giveaway of a Tezos branded Ledger Nano S hardware wallet device today. And I actually happen to have one here. I don't know if you can see it. This is kind of what it looks like. So to win one of these nice devices, all you have to do is to keep tuned in and wait for the announcement of a special keyword. And then you're going to be entering this keyword in the chat. And we'll be choosing a random winner later on in the show, whom we'll also be announcing. So we all wish you good luck.
Yep, definitely stick around for that. I guess we can go ahead and get started. Perhaps you, Mayor, can you tell us a bit more about your background?
Yeah, so it's funny. I'm actually an ex-figure skater in my last life. I was a competitive figure skater. And I know, kind of crazy. People would say, how are you going to win an election? And I just sort of laughed. I would say, oh, you know, in figure skating, Tanya Harding, bats, I don't know, people, you guys probably don't realize that because I'm.
Oh, it looks like we've lost the mayor. Well, I'm sure she'll be rejoining in a couple of seconds.
Yeah, looks like some technical difficulties. So I guess maybe you can chat a bit about your background, Theodore.
Well, yeah, right now, we're in the initial phases of designing the Reno DAO, and you know, I'm not biased. I'm not like a maximalist in Tezos or anything. I was just looking through, you know, I just went to Coin Market Cap and went down the list, investigating the different blockchains and the technologies that were available to actually develop a DAO. Because I was trying to find like the best platform, you know, for scalability, fees, just like long-term sustainability. And so eventually got down to Tezos, and just a lot of things. You know, they have so many resources, frameworks for like the home base DAO framework. That's going to be very important. And so eventually, just after like a massive Venn diagram, I decided on Tezos for the Reno DAO project.
Yeah, so I guess to add on to that, what was kind of, could you elaborate a bit more on what exactly you like about Tezos? Yeah,
so one thing that's really, I think, important for a government project is formal verification for verifying the correctness of your code. The nature of Michelson language is, you know, it's a very strict statically typed language. So there's like, I was talking to one of the camel case developers who made Dexter, and just asking like what his takeaways were using Michelson and that whole development process. And he says there's like two main runtime exceptions. There's like out of gas, which is like universal, like Solidity has out of gas exceptions, and then some arithmetic problem with natural numbers. So basically everything's figured out at compile time. So it's really helpful in that sense. And of course, fees and the on-chain governance model is something that we really like. just in the future, like with the Delphi update, slashing gas fees 75%. Just those sort of things give you an idea that it's safe to build your product on it, and you don't have to worry about gas spiking to some unreasonable amount that's going to stop your users from being able to participate. Because the eventual end user is Reno citizens,
Right.
and I don't think are going to want to be dropping $20 to $100 on gas to participate in something. So it's important to have a protocol that's able to adapt. And I think that abstractly those are the main reasons why we're picking Tezos over other chains.
Can
Great,
you guys
thanks
hear
for sharing
me?
the insight. Oh yeah, I was just about to ask. We can hear you just fine.
Sorry. Oh, you can hear me now. Okay, sorry. I
Yeah.
lost you guys.
No worries.
Thanks, Terry, for taking it over. I appreciate that. But anyway, I'll just kind of go into a little bit of background about me and why I became so passionate about blockchain in cities and so forth. But long story short, I'm really not a politician. I'm actually an entrepreneur. I became really passionate sort of about cities and how they run, being a business owner. And long story short, the city wanted to charge me about $5,000 to move a sign 2 feet. And so later on that night, I was talking with other small business owners, and people were complaining about how cities run and things like that, and how there's so much red tape. Anyway, so I thought, you know what, I'm not going to complain about it. I'm going to change it. I'm going to run for office and really represent small businesses and try to cut the red tape that I sort of experienced as a resident. And then I got really passionate about how cities sort of create arts and culture movements. I mean, Reno was a predominantly gaming city. I don't know if any of you have been here. If you haven't, you all have an open invite. And also there's something great here that we have right here in our backyard. It's called Burning Man. How many of you have heard of Burning Man? So you got to come out and see Burning Man. It's amazing. And so obviously I became really passionate about art. I'm super fortunate in the fact that I get to represent mayors across the country for tourism, arts, parks, entertainment, and sports. So anyway, I have been really trying to look ways how we can sort of monetize art in cities. And you guys are the first to hear it today, but we are doing a partnership with Tezos to create
Tezos TQ.
the city's first. Can you hear? Yeah.
Yeah.
To
we can.
create the first NFT to raise money for. It's a Burning Man art piece. It's a whale. It's called the Space Whale. It's really an impressive piece. And so we've partnered with Tezos to do an NFT, and to it's just a really exciting project. And then we'll work with other larger cities with some of their most famous art pieces to digitize them. So you guys are the first to hear about our partnership, and we're super excited.
Oh, that's great news. Maya, would you like to go a little a bit more into how you kind of first learned about Tezos? I guess that would be very interesting to everyone.
Sure. Well, I guess my journey started like 5 years ago, in the sense that I was participating in sort of a hackathon. It's sort of where you can create a tech business in 48 hours. And there was a young man there, and he was talking about blockchain, and he was talking about Bitcoin. And I started to think, wow, could really change cities and how we create our own economies. And so I started to watch the technology about 5 years ago. And then I became an investor and started, watching other, coins and things like that. And so I'm really I look at my role as a mayor to be able to open the door to people like you guys who create applications and work with great applications. And so Teddy reached out to me whenever he found out that we were going to sort of integrate blockchain in some of our applications at the city. And he said, hey, I want to be able to help you. And then I have actually all these, local developers reach out and say, how can I help? And so then Teddy and I started to collaborate, and he was telling me, really we got to look at Tezos. And I was so impressed with what they're doing and how much they're doing. And I also think, they're not sort of this hype. They're really doing it, and they're creating things that are sustainable. And so I think they're really leading the way on so many different levels. I'm a big fan of Chainlink as well. And so I'm just fascinated by the technology and how, like I said, it will truly transform cities. But right now, cities have to find out what our pain points are, right? Where are the areas that we need to utilize blockchain the most, and these applications? And so Teddy and I have been doing a lot of deep dive and really sort of exploring how we can utilize those applications right here in the city of Reno. And then Teddy came up with, he said, we got to create a Reno DAO. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it, because I just think that it's really a way to give back to your community and monetize. And I also think too, one thing in government that is really essential is transparency, right? So that's why, smart contracts make a lot of sense. There are just so many ways that we can utilize the blockchain in cities. And so, again, I think my job is to open the door to people like you and sort of go out there and champion for these great applications.
Yeah, and I think kind of addressing onto, figuring out those pain points, it's really important to know that we're still early, and conventionally, obviously a lot of processes within governments, move notoriously slow.
Oh, yeah. Don't I know it? Don't I know it? As being an entrepreneur, we like to pivot fast and change often, right? And so you're right, trying to find those pain points and using test cases, because it's not easy to disrupt an entire system, certainly in government. Right. So you make a very good point there. You're exactly right. But just think of all the ways we can be so much more efficient. We had some issues with our unemployment, right? And we saw a lot of fraud. And so being able to have applications like ID Verify and decentralizing, on so many different levels it will be a game changer for cities in the future. I really do believe that. So there's so many possibilities, but I mean, even where, your entire community can own a piece of land, or look at the NFT that we're going to create with Tezos for this NFT, and being able to try to raise money for this incredible art piece that we have. And then looking at other art collections around the country of some of the most notable art that you guys are very familiar with when you go and visit a city. So I think there's just endless possibility, but we've got to start being bold, and we've got to start realizing that this technology will really transform cities in the future.
Yeah, speaking of all these, possibilities and opportunities that the technology might bring, I'd like to bring up that, speaking about Tezos, for all of our listeners who might not be deeply familiar with Tezos yet, you can head over to Tezos.com, or you can find out specifically about Tezos philosophy and values. There's a great article by the founder of Tezos, Arthur Brightman. It's called Tezos Philosophy and Values. I recommend Googling that, just that you can, dive into Tezos a little deeper.
Well, one other thing too, we have a question from the audience. Someone asked, can Theodore or the mayor share a little bit about more what they have planned for the Reno DAO?
All right, good. Well, Teddy, I'm going to throw that to you. We've been talking about so many different ideas, and obviously it's in sort of this very early stage, but we're excited. So Teddy,
yeah, I can definitely share like the first stage with some more confidence than like later stages. So the first stage that we are thinking about are just creating a foundation. So just creating an empty DAO, just having the implementation of the base DAO SDK TypeScript implemented on a test net, maybe mainnet, and then slowly discussing the next steps. Some ideas we've been discussing are some sort of property, like the mayor told me earlier in one of our early conversations, she'd look into finding potential properties that people could rent, and and the city could to lend to people, and then the payments that would go to, for paying that rent would go distributed through the DAO, so that token holders would sort of receive a share of income that the DAO is generating. So it's just about like slowly digitizing the Reno economy, and I think those are some of the steps. Oh yeah, I think one other important thing to mention is we want to distribute a lot of the supply equally among the Reno citizens, because we don't want like a plutocratic structure. Where like only the wealthy control a dominant vote. So we want to initially distribute the supply to the Reno citizens, and then put a portion of the supply on like Dexter or some other exchanges to have other people have an interest to buy it.
Mm-hmm.
I think, but yeah, the first step is just a DAO with nothing on it, and then a supply of tokens, and then just developing that know your customer sort of, verify you're a Reno resident, and then you can collect your airdrop.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Well, and you guys, there's going to be a lot of, you guys know this is really, really new. And when I start talking about it in certain circles, people kind of go, what? You lose them, right? But eventually this will be something that will be sort of mainstream. So I think, let's start talking about it now. But I think to Teddy's point, for me, I really want to create a local economy that can benefit all my citizens. And so to look at things that, as a community, right, of the things that we can all own together in our city, and, be able to monetize that, and look at ways that we can really benefit each other in our sort of local economies. And I think that's what cities need to kind of start to figure out. And I love, Teddy talked about the equality, and I think that's really, really important, right? So we're all on the same playing field, and we're all sort of reaping the benefits of something like this. Now, it's going to take a long time to adopt. We know that, because I think some people are going to be like, what is the mayor talking about? But eventually, like I said, this will end up being mainstream, where I think citizens will get it. And I think you also have to walk before you can run. And I think there are really easy ways to do that, like to get my community to understand, hey, why don't we start using, cryptocurrency to pay for things like sewer payments and things like that, where we're starting to have these conversations where people are becoming familiar with the technology. I think that's really critical, is that we've got to start sort of breaking it down so that our community can understand why this benefits all of us. And I think I was even telling you guys earlier, we could even be sharing solar energy and things. Think about how efficient cities could really become, and how much money that they can save becoming so efficient, right? And that's only going to benefit our entire community and the residents that live here. And I think eventually, with people like Mayor Suarez, I don't know if many of you have been following him. I love what he's doing in his city, but I think it's really important for mayors to sort of pave the way in these cities to create benefits back to our entire community in this manner. And there's really an opportunity to do that now. So I'm excited for the possibility, but again, it's very early. And with that being said, we have to continue to educate and let our community know why something like this could benefit all of us.
Absolutely. I really do. This is amazing. I think you're probably pioneers in launching a city-based DAO. I'm not aware of anything out there like this. It's very exciting. But we do have a question here from the audience that I'd like to ask you, which is, thank you both for engaging with the community. The Reno DAO and Burning Man NFT sound exciting. Are there other areas within the municipality you're exploring where Tezos makes sense?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I've had meetings with Tezos. We've been sort of talking about where does it make sense. Back to your point, I think, William, we talked about this, the pain points, right?
Right.
Cities and states have to really start to identify the pain points. I see some pain points in other things at the state level, But I also, you have to educate those people as well, why this technology would make sense and why Tezos is a really good place. I have to tell you, I was really impressed with their commitment, and the talent and their passion for creating such strong applications and projects. And also, I mean, just reaching out to me and saying, hey, Mayor, how can we help? We want to, help do something really great in your community. And that says a lot, right? And they're not saying, it wasn't about money. And typically when people approach a city, it's a lot of times it's, about money and things that aren't going to benefit your entire community. And so when I met with them, I was so impressed about their commitment to sort of, change and be so innovative and be so open to work with cities. And I would say this, now more than ever, cities really have to realize the leverage of doing private and public partnerships. And that's what Tezos realizes, which I think is incredible. I think there are absolutely other ways you can utilize this technology with, states as well. We did pull in our state treasurer, and so he was sort of listening. He's, new to this technology as well. So everyone is still listening and trying to understand, how does this benefit my state? I'm going to stay in my own lane and focus on my city, right? Where I know that I can make the greatest impact and be able to leverage that. And so I got to tell you, I'm just really excited about this opportunity to work with Tezos and create this NFT for the space whale. I hope everyone looks up the space whale. It's beautiful. And it's this, massive, massive whale, and it's got stained glass pieces all over it. And one of the creators, there were many artists that worked on this piece from Burning Man, but was a man by the name of Android Jones, and he has created artwork at the Vatican. And so, and then Skillix came out and raised money to create this whale. I don't know if you guys know Skillix, but anyway, so just it's got a lot of significance, I believe, in our city. And so to be the first city out of the gate to create something like this with Tezos I think is really exciting. And again, because I represent mayors all across the country on art, then I can also pave the way for these other cities to digitize these, really notariable pieces of art. So I just think there's so many exciting possibilities, and there's so many levels.
Yeah, and I think addressing these pain points, it really takes a certain level of conviction and fortitude, since everything is still early, and you may have some people, who call you quote unquote crazy.
Oh,
right?
they do. They do.
But, it's really not for someone who's, I guess, in a sense, afraid to be stuck on an island, so to speak. To make these kind of changes for the benefit of the common good, it requires having this open mindset. And I think it's really fascinating coming from both you and Teddy that you all share that same mindset.
Yeah.
Well,
one other thing I think that's an interesting place to explore for Reno specifically. Actually Sergey Nazarov, we had a meeting with him and he introduced it. Was using the chain link random number generators for casinos and gaming locally. Just because the chain link random number generator is like probably the most sophisticated random number generator made.
Right.
And it's a very high integrity random number generation. And then it's not. I mean, I remember from that discussion that the city has to go through some sort of like licensing to get their random number created. But I think they say they were just pulling a chain link random number generator could streamline the whole process for them. And it would be contributing to the Reno gaming community, casino gambling community.
Yeah. To Teddy's point, I think there's so many layers to this that I don't even think we have touched on them. And I think that if cities don't start to wake up, they will get left behind and they will leave, their community behind as well. So I think that's why we've got to start talking about now. But I'm grateful for you guys, because when you reached out, it's funny, like you said, well, like people would say, Mayor, you sound crazy. What are you talking about? Hopefully in 10 years, whenever I'm obviously no longer in office, people will say, you know what, that Mayor Schieve actually, had this vision to create this economy, her own local economy, and to create jobs. And that would be another thing, is to really work on ways that we can attract development here, because we're a city using test cases. But what I'm impressed about is that, like all of your, listeners today and viewers today, we're all sort of passionate about the same thing. And so being in our own sort of ecosystem and cheering each other on, I think is really, really helpful. And when you guys reached out and said, hey, come on, I thought, okay, well, wait a minute, these people don't think I'm crazy. So you guys have been great. And again, I think it takes people like all of us to say, no, this actually is going to be something that's going to change what we do in cities for the future.
Yeah, certainly so. I mean, there's a lot of people who still associate blockchain tech entirely with speculation. They don't really realize that there's vast opportunity and possibilities that go hand in hand with it. And I feel like projects like these that really try to get people involved can, make that situation better.
Yeah,
So it's great to have projects like these.
especially
Like diving. Yeah, go ahead.
especially with some people just associate blockchain with Bitcoin, like there's synonyms, perfect synonyms. Blockchain
Right.
equals Bitcoin, Bitcoin equal blockchain. And it's just like they don't realize that it's a big secured list of data. That could be anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And diving. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, because, I've had people say to me, what are you talking about? This Bitcoin is so dangerous. And I'm like, so you have to really sort of break it down. But again, it's still hard for people to sort of wrap their head around this. But I think, again, you've bold and you've got to take chances. And I think other cities will be left behind. But for also people like you who are passionate, that understand building these applications, how they will change everything that we do. I mean, almost everything. One of the things your listeners probably don't know about me, like I was saying, I was an entrepreneur. I also own businesses where we sell high-end handbags. And one of the things is, we're seeing a lot of fraud when it comes to identifying if this handbag is authentic, right? And so blockchain is now being used to be able to identify that exact handbag. I mean, some of these handbags are in the thousands of dollars, right? So they are like their own artworks, but be able to identify those serial numbers and know who owned that, that merchandise, and be able to identify that it is authentic, right? So all these different ways. And because I'm a business owner, I can't wait for the day that I can alleviate my credit card company. Now, I know the credit card companies aren't going to like that, but to decentralize makes so much sense. And once businesses understand what that means, and cities, that light bulb is going to go off and they're going to get it.
Absolutely. All right, I'd like to take the time now to announce the keyword for the Tezos branded Legend NOS. And it is !Tezos Reno with a capital T and R. So if you want to win it, make sure to enter that in the chat.
I love it. I love it. That's fantastic.
That's a great keyword.
You're great.
Very simple. But one thing I wanted to bring up, it's kind of crazy. I know we've already touched on the Reno DAO already, but I find some of these, people who don't truly understand the technology, they don't kind of have that level of conviction, I suppose. There's actually a lot of similarities, with actual cities and states like Reno, and drawing a parallel to an actual DAO, because there's all these different, sort of mechanisms and components that go beyond just this actual underlying technology of things like governance. You have economics and all these different things. So I guess one thing I wanted to ask you, Teddy, was something people would like to hear a bit more about. how is the Reno coin going to play a role with Reno DAO?
Well, to compare it to a traditional financial system, it'd be a lot similar. I mean, obviously structured in a much different way, but the behavior is similar to buying shares of a company. You have the more Reno coin you have, the more ownership of the DAO you have, which would be the Reno economy. So if you have that's why we want to equally, drop it to the Reno citizens so that everyone has an equal share of the DAO. But of course, they can sell it if they want to. So it's purely an ownership based thing. So that when there's things like rewards from like rent or payments from property or NFTs, whatever, the DAO is going to grow and evolve, and there's going to be different income streams, as it grows. But just paying a proportion back to everyone who, to the proportion of the supply of Reno coin that each person owns is the idea. So it's just ownership over the DAO.
So say you're an actual Reno citizen. How would you go and join the conversation on this?
This live stream.
Well,
Outside of this live stream.
I love it.
I don't know exactly how we get in touch. I mean, we have a lot of people writing into the office, Mayor Schieve's office, and then they're just getting involved on the board that way through her office. Am I right?
Yeah. The best way is, I'm very accessible. I love the work that I do because I love people. And so I love to engage with people. And I think that's really how the best way to shape a community is hearing their ideas. And that's another thing I would stress to all of your listeners, that reach out to your mayors. They're looking for innovation. They're looking for so many different ways to make a city flourish, right? So whatever you do, I think really important to reach out to them because they have ways that they can open the door for you. I would say, again, I'm very accessible. So go ahead and reach out to me, Mayor Schieve, on Twitter. I respond a lot on Twitter. I DM people all the time. You can also reach out to my office, and that's mayor@reno.gov, which is really easy. But at the same time, I'm always open to ideas. And again, I would tell your listeners, reach out to any electeds or mayors in your city, and might be pleasantly surprised how well and receptive they are. I mean, that's how Teddy and I became friends and started talking about, all this interest and similar passion of creating this pilot project together. And then other residents started to reach out to me. I've had residents that have moved out of Reno that want to come back to Reno. I've had other companies reach out, blockchain companies. I don't know if many of you guys know, but the governor also just put out this bill about creating an entire blockchain city, right? And so it's really kind of fascinating. I think, Nevada is doing a really good job of being bold and taking chances. And otherwise, if we don't, I think government becomes completely stale. And so we need people like you guys that think differently and can change the way that governments evolve.
Yeah, we don't want to go another 70 years with a COBOL infrastructure.
Right?
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people, I'm sure our listeners are pretty excited at this point about, Reno DAO and Reno Coin. Let's talk a little bit about timeline. Do you have anything planned specifically? Like when is this going to roll out? Or maybe you want to share some information about this.
I think we're going to, first, what we'll do is continue to create the board. And Teddy's got a good start on that. And we're just starting to acquire, people that are interested that can help build this. And then, right now it's a pilot. It's very new. Like I said, we're going to have to do a lot of education. And I think a lot of that's going to start with smaller things like taking cryptocurrency for sewer payments or parking tickets or things like that, right? I think you have to be able to sort of go out there and make a case why this technology makes so much sense. So, I think if if we jump now, we're going to lose people. Not to say that we can't and we shouldn't, so we can start building. And I think Teddy can speak on that a little bit better. But I think right now it's gathering a lot of information and looking at private and public partnerships like we're starting to do now. And I think it makes sense to really work with Tezos right now on this project for our digital art. And seeing, you know, what kind of reception we get from that, and are people open to the idea of this kind of digitized artwork throughout cities, right? And so I think we're going to be learning a lot in these stages to, you know, be able to be very thoughtful about what makes sense, right? Because I think all of us here right now, we get it and we understand why it makes sense, but a lot of people are not going to, and we don't want to lose them. We want them to have this buy-in and understand how we can all benefit. And so I think you have to be very careful about, you know, just kind of running with it, and then you sort of see this drop off because people don't understand why it makes sense or how they can benefit, right? So I think that's really, really critical. As much as I want to create it right now and just run, I think you have to, again, have buy-in from, it doesn't matter if it's developers or other businesses in town or the city, and things in which it can benefit both sides. But, you know, Teddy, I don't know if you want to sort of jump off on that as well.
Yeah, well, in what way should I jump on that?
well, you know, I'm just saying, like, I think, you know, we've had a lot of conversations about how at first it could be, you know, very slow to get to a point where people are going to embrace this, right? Now, eventually, like I said, I think it's going to be mainstream. I mean, one day we'll be like, hey, remember we were talking about this and everyone thought we were crazy?
Yeah, and that's why we
Right?
like
One day
that's why we like Tezos, because it can the protocol looks like it can take blockchain and all these ideas mainstream, which is why we like it. I think when we assemble the board and get all the board members finalized, I think it's important. You know, we should probably have like a renodao.gov or renodao.org for, you know, the project outline, where we're at, who's on the board, that sort of thing.
Yeah. And I love that idea, because then you guys can sort of follow our progress, and then other cities can kind of see what we're doing if they want to adopt it, and then we can help them with those sort of test cases. Like, I think that's sort of exciting too. And we can also say, hey, you know, this did not work for us. This did work for us, right? So we're going to kind of go out there, be the sort of guinea pig, and start to adopt it, right? But I think that's a really good point, that we are very transparent about what we're doing. And then we're also really open for ideas, certainly from the Tezos community and from other people that have great ideas, because I think that's the best way for people to shape a community, right? Is getting sort of that kind of consensus and working together. But also, I think, to Teddy's point, to be able to publish sort of what we're doing so people have access to that information and to follow the process and see what that looks like.
Yeah, and I think you know, not only that, but it's kind of like a win-win, especially with this Nevada legislation that I believe you brought up earlier. You know, it's not only beneficial for both the state of Reno, but it's also beneficial for, you know, blockchain companies and some of these projects like Tezos, you know, to be able to utilize this and hopefully see Reno turn into a tech hub.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, I think for me, that's a big part of when you are the mayor, you champion your city and you want all of your residents to do well. And that comes with creating a great quality of life. And that comes with also
Right.
being creators and developers and artists, and how we can, as a government, be able to embrace, you know, that type of creativity in a city. And I think, again, if you're a mayor and that's not what you're looking at to the future, I think you'll be left behind, or your city will be anyway. I think that's really important. But I will tell you this, I work with a lot of mayors through the Conference of Mayors. I'm really fortunate. And so many mayors are very open-minded. They're the biggest champions in their communities, right? And so they also know that their job is to help you guys continue to create great projects. And that means building great companies and great technology to help a city, thrive and sustain. And so again, it really just makes sense. It makes sense for a city on so many levels.
Yeah, absolutely. One final thing I wanted to ask you was there's been a lot of discussion, on election integrity, if anyone has been following the news. Do you have
Yes.
do you have any thoughts about integrating blockchain into perhaps the voting process?
Yeah, I think that that's great. And there's been a lot of talk around that. And you're right. So many people do not believe in the system. And I think, again, this is how you sort of transform elections. I think it's really important. Now, obviously, at the city of Reno, our voting system is under the county. And the county has actually done a really good job with various things. And I think they might even have marriage licenses on the blockchain or something like this. But I think that it's certainly something that we need to start adopting so that we can, again, create transparency and trust, right? We know that that's really, really critical. I mean, now more than ever, people do not have trust in the election system. And that's just, that never creates a good governance at all. So for me, I'm a big proponent of it. And again, that's part of my job to go out there and sort of educate other people that can help, in their departments, like our elections department, or, the other thing I look at too in cities is, hey, what if we have big projects sort of coming online? And what about if my Reno citizens can vote on those projects to see, hey, maybe this is a good project, maybe this is not such a good project, right? So I think there's other ways to engage your community with blockchain that make a lot of sense. So I think you're going to see so much evolve because of the opportunity.
We've got another question here for you, Teddy, which is, are you on Twitter? I want to follow you.
Well, I know Mayor Schieve, she recommended I need to make a Twitter because I don't have social media. So I should make a fresh account and just start one. And
I love that. I love that you don't. I'm only on Twitter. I don't use Facebook anymore, and I know that I need to, but I also think you have to pay attention to your social media diet, I call it. So when Teddy said, "Oh, I'm not on Twitter," I said, well, that's the one social media, jump on so that I can at least follow you and we can sort of keep you guys in the know of what we're doing. So everyone encouraged Teddy to jump back on Twitter. He told me
the only social networks I use are GitHub and the Tezos network, and then occasionally, Reddit.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. But I can give you guys my Tezos address if you want to follow my transactions.
You might also want to join the discussions on Tezos Agora. Like just to mention here, there's several different channels in the Tezos world where people are just actively discussing the project. Like there certainly is Twitter, there's Reddit, but there's also a more, I would say, sane place to engage in longer conversation about certain topics, and that would be Tezos Agora. So just anyone wondering, like listening and wondering how to connect within the Tezos world, just be sure to jump in. There's different channels for everyone.
To add on to that, the Riot channel is very good too.
Right.
There's a lot of tech-focused people in there. There's also the baking Slack, and it's also another Tezos Dev channel on Slack. So those are all good resources.
We're going to keep you very busy, Teddy.
Yeah, I'll use Twitter. I'll compromise on that one.
Yes. Speaking of keeping Teddy busy, we've got another related question, I guess, which is, has the city of Reno looked into setting up a baker?
I think we could set up something like that, but we haven't talked about it yet. But I have thought about, like, what if we have some sort of baking software, like maybe custom baking software to bake, Reno resident transactions in the block when it gets, like, something like that. But that'd be a whole nother project.
But that's why we're creating this board. And again, for the people that are, following this today, it's a great way to reach out to your mayor and say, hey, and you can even say that I sent you. Say, hey, Mayor Hillary Schieve in Reno told me I should reach out. And it's, what about creating a mayor's board on blockchain, right? And that's how these ideas can really come to fruition, because you get people at the table, collaborate, right? And again, this is sort of evolves, and how these kinds of ideas will one day be, what we're doing, and people won't think that we're crazy when we talk about these ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. Just real quick though, we do have a winner for the Tezos branded Ledger Nano S. That is Franco. I believe I saw him in the chat. He's already sent an email, but be sure to also send credentials. Take a screenshot of your YouTube account so we know it's you, to social@tezoscommons.org.
All right, congratulations, Franco.
Have fun with your device.
I'm jealous.
All right. I can send you one, Teddy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Anyways, yeah. Before we wrap up here, is there any last or closing words that you wanna say?
No, I don't have any closing words. I mean, I think I'm just really excited about this project and getting it started and starting to just tie all these ideas together and actually make a use case that could impact a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
I think there's so many possibilities, you guys, and even if you guys have ideas, we want to hear them. And these are things that the blockchain board is going to really look at all of them and see what makes sense. And again, especially if you do live in Reno, I would say reach out to us. We'd love to have you as part of the board. Teddy's going to do a great job. You guys can tell, that he's very passionate about this. And also what I love from the Tezos community is they seem very committed to giving back to their own communities. And I think that that's really important, because that's what will make the difference in cities. So we're really happy to be part of your Tezos community, because again, I think we're all sort of like-minded and we can sort of help champion each other. But my job is to make sure that people like Teddy can continue to create good things in cities.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. I just want to thank.
Oh, what was that? No, I'm
tell us your Twitter handle, because I think you do have a Twitter handle. Am I right, or not yet?
I couldn't figure out how to sign in. It's been such a long time. It's been like since 26. I'll also make a new one.
Okay.
Yeah, Teddy, you were mentioning that you're following.
And then I'll make you guys follow him. I'll send it out, and then you guys can follow him from there. We'll start to help him with his Twitter reach. And
sounds
wonderful. All right, great, wonderful. Thank you everybody for tuning in, and thanks so much to the two of you for sharing these insights. It's gonna be interesting to see how Reno DAO is gonna play out. And yeah, do as the mayor said, reach out to your local mayors, raise your voice, and also be sure to connect with the Tezos community. Like, Tezos community is a pretty enthusiastic, passionate, and also friendly folk. So, just join in and yeah, let's connect and create.
I love president. I love it. That's going to be our new slogan in Reno. Connect and create. I love it, you guys.
Amazing.
Thanks for having us on. I really appreciate it. And we'll come on periodically to give you an update. How's that sound?
That sounds awesome.
Awesome.
Thanks for taking the time to come on today, Mayor. And also
good.
Teddy.
Yeah,
Thanks a lot.
we're excited.